Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us from 100 different companies around the world in 18 different countries. I'm Gaurav Deshpande, Chief Marketing Officer for HyperTrack. Thank you for staying with us today for the Gig Work Summit. We had an amazing agenda so far. We had the case study from Zen Jobs, how they scaled up from a single use case to nearly 100 million in ARR. We had opening keynote session with Kashyap Devra, founder and CEO of HyperTrack, and also co-founder and CTO of Traba, Akshay Budiga spoke. After that, we had an excellent session from PartRunner team talking about delivery of big and bulky. Now we are on to our session of looking behind the covers to understand what is saving PartRunner 55% in Google Casts. What is having Traba say that they can track 100% of the shift now, and they have a 98.3% fill rate. So everything behind that, the magician behind it, part of the team is Aashish, who's going to talk to you about HyperTrack apps and HyperTrack dashboards. So without further ado, let me hand it off to Aashish. Aashish, take it away.
Thank you for the introduction, Gaurav. Let me start sharing my screen. Started. So yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here at the Gig Work Summit today. My name is Aashish Subramanian. I'm the Director of Engineering Applications here at HyperTrack. And over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through some of the key views we have on our HyperTrack dashboard, as well as the mobile apps that we provide. There's going to be a deeper session based on use cases later today by Ram, so definitely stick around for that. But hopefully through the session, you get the flavors of what HyperTrack has to offer. Let's get started. So let's start off with the ecosystem. I know different people in the audience today are from different industry verticals, be it healthcare, be it retail, be it deliveries or light industry. But cutting through these different verticals, you have some form of these different personas we've identified on the screen. So let's start off with the customer. All of you have customers who you provide a service to or deliver orders to. You all have the driver or the worker who actually goes to these customer locations to perform the service or provide the order. And then you have ops teams that manage and make sure that orders get dispatched on time. The right drivers are assigned these orders and they're able to get to the customer, and they're in charge of also making sure that the customers are satisfied with the services that you provide. And finally, you have the builder, and the builder touches all these different personas. They are your product managers, they are your engineers, trying to understand what the customer needs are and what the different team needs are, and are trying to build to ensure that your product is scalable and works for everyone. So let's look into each of these personas and see how HyperTrack touches each of these. So let's start off with your customer. Let's imagine a use case in the healthcare space, and a patient requests a nurse to come and administer, say, insulin at a certain amount of time. Let's look at it from the customer perspective and see what they'd like, right? So your customer would like to know where this nurse is at just before the appointment time. They'd like to know when they're going to get to this particular location, right? Where are they going to arrive? And then they want to know if there's going to be any delays, because it's important for them to get their insulin on time. And if there are any delays, they'd like to notify your ops team so that they can ensure that they can send a different clinician or nurse, right? And then what if the nurse never shows up, right? There are all these cases that you guys see today, and your customer has some way of knowing whether the nurse is going to show up to the location or not. So what we have today from HyperTrack is the track cat view. So what you see here is on the right-hand side, you see who the driver is, how far away they are. So it says they're 12 minutes away, when the order was started, what the ETA to get to that patient location is, and then on completion, you know exactly where this particular service got completed, right? So your customers have full visibility on exactly what's happening until their order finally reaches them and the service is completed. Now let's move to the worker persona, right? What do your workers care about? your workers are out doing different gigs all day, and it's very important that they know that on a given day, what are the gigs that they need to go and fulfill, right? How do they get to these locations and to fulfill them? And then they want to capture the proof of work that they've done at that location and be able to report this back in some way or form, so that if payouts are dependent on it, they'd like their ops teams to know that they need to get paid for this work, right? And for that, HyperTrack provides two different flavors. So if you're a customer who currently already has an app deployed, we provide an SDK. And it's super simple for you to integrate the HyperTrack SDK and connect yourself to the HyperTrack cloud. And if you don't have an app, then HyperTrack provides two different apps. One is the Visits app and the Orders app that are currently in the Play Store and the App Store. And we're going to walk through these individually. Let's start off with the Orders app. So who needs to use the Orders app? Right? Let's get to that. If you're a customer who's working with time-sensitive orders, right? For the example that we took, where the patient needs to get their insulin at a certain point in time in the day, then the Orders app is the right one for you. So your nurse is going from the first patient's home to the second patient's home to the third patient's home. They need to know how to get from one place to the other. This is the perfect use case for this. So let's take a look at some of the screens here. The first one is the profile. Your nurse or worker is able to see all the information about them. They have their name, a driver handle, which is a customer provided identifier that you would provide to HyperTrack to identify your driver, and a device ID that's unique to their device, right? Next is the work screen. So in the first screen here, what you see is the worker has visibility into the work that's been assigned to them. So in this case, they know that there are two orders that they need to go fulfill. They know the distance that they need to travel to fulfill these orders and how much time it's going to take them. Once it's dispatched to them and they're on their way, they know exactly which order needs to be serviced next. And diving into that, they know exactly when the order started, what the ETA to that first order location is, what's the schedule time by which they need to get there. And all this information is available along with the route information. Now, through the Orders app, we do provide the most efficient route, but you will be using your native Apple Maps or Google Maps to get to that location. Finally, we have the history view. And the history view gives your worker all the information about the work they've done so far, right? So this gives total transparency into what they were assigned, what they completed. You can see that diving into each of these, you will be able to see the distance traveled for that particular route, how many orders were part of it, how many did they complete, and what was their walk distance, and so on. Next, let's move on to the Visits app. Now, who needs to use the Visits app, right? Visits app is very useful in cases where the orders are not really time sensitive. By that, let's take an example of, say, maybe you have a sales team and you've dispatched a sales team in a certain region, and there are certain places of business interest that you have out there. You've created geofences around these different business locations, and there's no particular order in which your workers need to go visit these locations, right? But the Visits app basically provides the visibility to your worker of the different locations that they can actually go and visit. So let's walk through this screen to see how that happens. So you have a profile view similar to what you had in the previous one, where you have the driver information or the worker information. They're able to see their name, the device ID. In the work screens, we have two panels. So the first one is the map that shows the dot-on map, right? Where exactly am I right now? You're able to see that. And you're able to see the geofences or places of interest around you that you potentially need to visit. The places view shows you a list of these places. And as you can see, like Safeway Unit 422, McDonald's, and other Safeway, they're all in the list. And then your drivers are able to see, or workers are able to see exactly where that is. Now, finally, when a visit actually happens, as you can see in the screen where the workers enter the geofence, they have a record by the visit. So the visit information tells them where they visited, between what time and what time, how long they spent in that location, and the distance traveled to get there and so on, right? And finally, you have the history view here, which shows you, again, information about the drive, the walk, how long they were spent at a stop, and so on. And this, again, provides them full transparency so that they can communicate to operations in case there's any kind of discrepancy. Now let's move on to your ops teams. Right? So ops teams care to manage orders, they care to manage their workers, and they care to manage customer disputes. Right? So to manage orders, currently HyperTrack provides the orders view. Now, in the orders view, you're able to manage your orders, which can be to create them, complete them, cancel them. HyperTrack today already provides the ability for you to provide us orders, and we will automatically bag these orders into the most optimized routes and provide that to you. And you can then also go ahead and manage these routes in this. Management of route could involve adding an order, removing an order, resequencing an order. All that is possible. And then finally, once you're happy with the route, you're able to dispatch this to your worker. Right? Now, after dispatch, you want to be able to see what's going on ground. Right? So you want to track the order fulfillment, and we provide an order profile view to do exactly this. So you're able to go into the order profile view, and you're able to exactly see where the driver is as they are going to fulfill this particular order. Important things to highlight here are identification of anomalies and risks. Right? So in the previous case, when the nurse is delayed by some time and they're not able to get to the patient location for whatever reason, it's important that ops actually gets notified before, in advance, so that they can be more proactive in responding to the situation rather than reactive and having the customer notify them. And this view provides that ability. We are constantly figuring out the different risks that come about as your driver moves, and we're able to notify that to you so that you can take action in advance. And finally, we have the replay of ground truth. Right? You finally have the ability to see exactly what happened on ground today after the order was completed. This is really useful in cases where you have disputes and say the customer says, I don't know, there were delays, and you're able to look at the screen, replay, and exactly see why the delays happened. Maybe your worker was stuck in traffic for too long, so you saw it stop. Maybe they spent an extra 30 minutes at lunch, and you're able to see this, and it helps correct driver behavior and also keep the customer better informed of what's going on. Next, let's move to managing the workers themselves, right? So we have a driver screen today where you're able to create, remove, update the drivers. You know the current status of these drivers. You know whether they're available to work or they're already working. You're able to understand what the work done by them is, get the exact metrics payout. So maybe you're paying by the distance driven, number of orders that they've done, and so on, and you're able to get that from the screen. And then this also gives you an essence to understand what the worker behavior sort of is, right? So you'll be able to see the tracking rate of this driver, and then you'll understand whether if the tracking rate is high, then of course they're doing well, they're able to complete their orders on time. But if not, you're able to take corrective action there. Next is managing the places. So in the visits use case, I did speak about geofences, and today HyperTrack provides you a places view where you're able to go in and create custom polygon geofences or circular geofences of a chosen radius. You're able to attribute your business metadata to these geofences. And then when visits happen and your workers are on ground, those visits are attributed to these geofences, and you have all that information with you. And last but not least, of course, the builders, right? They're the people touching every aspect of your system. They're impacting all the different personas you have in your industry. And for the builders, HyperTrack provides APIs. We are an API company. Everything you've seen so far is built off of the HyperTrack API, right? So today, your engineers, builders can go into the API docs and start building all this goodness into your product right away. The webhooks are key for real-time information. And as things happen on ground and change, we're able to provide this information to you and feed it back to your system so that you can trigger internal workflows that you may have on your side. And you finally have the mobile SDK. We spoke about this earlier, but the mobile SDK works across different platforms on the mobile side, be it iOS, Android, Ionic. We support all these. And it's super easy to integrate this into your existing app and deploy it across the board. I'd like to highlight some of the things we're currently working on. So first one is an order planner. So as I said before, we're able to automatically create the routes for you in the most optimized manner based on certain business metrics that you provide. But in the real world, there's often cases where not all orders can be planned. And there may be additional information that your ops teams are aware of, and they want to use that information to plan a certain route, right? And this view is going to give you that ability to go in, select different unplanned orders, figure out what's the best route possible, and then finally dispatch that route to your drivers. The next one I wanted to talk about is the places. So the places tab I showed you earlier is going to get an upgrade. We're bringing inferences to places. So today, HyperTrack is already working with a closed loop of customers where we're able to look at their data and figure out the key locations that are part of the order, right? So where do I park, where do I walk, and where do I knock? And HyperTrack is able to intelligently figure out these key locations and attach that to the place, right? So this could be your order destination, and it would be great if your worker knows exactly where to go, where to park, where to walk, and where to knock. We're enhancing this capability while we do provide the results. Again, it's important for the ops teams to have the ability to go in and make changes to this. And ground truth is what we use to derive this, but ops teams and workers often have more information and are able to, you will be able to change this as well. So what this does is, as you keep visiting a certain location, every time the visit just gets better, right? So the time for the last 100 yards is getting lesser and lesser because your driver knows exactly where to go and your worker knows exactly where to go. And finally, we also are introducing a worker timeline. So you'd like to look at the work done from the perspective of a driver. This driver profile view is going to be able to tell you exactly that. You select a driver, you know where they are, what's the work they did, and you see metrics across the day of their work, right? So you're able to get some kind of a driver score. What's their tracking rate been today? How much have they driven, and so on. And this is useful when you're trying to look at drivers that say have a bad driver score. You want to figure out what's going on and why that's happening and have some corrective measures so that you can improve the experience for your customers. That's all I had for you today. So I'm ready to take questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Aashish. We have questions. We have a questions here on the feed loop interface and the Zoom. First question: the inference, location inference functionality that you mentioned. Is that something that would be what would be the effort required if somebody is using HyperTrack to implement it, or is it something that would come out of the box and implement by itself? In other words, is it self-running, or is it something that requires effort from customers?
No, it's no effort from customers, actually. If you're today using HyperTrack routes and you're tracking your drivers, we're able to get this information. So if you'd like to learn more about it, do reach out to us. We're happy to. We are working only with a closed loop of customers right now, but this is something that's going to be available to all the customers with zero effort from the customer side.
The second question is for the replay functionality that you mentioned. Does replay require any specific thing from one part of the customer to do? Again, what's the level of effort required to implement the replay? Is it by default? Is it something that's requires any kind of effort on top? What is the configuration required? I guess is the question.
Yeah, there's no configuration required. So the replay functionality comes out of the box for the views in HyperTrack. All these views we showed you are also embeddable. It's important that I mentioned that. So even if you have your own product and want to add on a screen and bring in the HyperTrack dashboard into it, today you can do that, and the replay functionality will just work fine out of the box.
All right, one more question here. Dashboards that you've shown, can I configure those to my liking? In other words, can I modify them?
Yeah, so we do have some customizability in our dashboards. of course, we're happy to chat more. We do provide customers the ability to hide certain things or change certain icons and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we do provide customizability depending on the views. But if you have a real need and if you can share what that is, we're happy to walk through it and make it happen for you.
Wonderful. I don't have any other questions here in the queue. Thanks a lot, Aashish. This was a wonderful, short and sweet overview, and we are back on track in terms of time. I appreciate that. For those of you who are here, please come back in 10 minutes for 5 minutes for the past, present, and future of gig work, and fantastic roundtable featuring executives from Traba, from Gigable over in Europe, from Liquid Mobile, which provides mobile nurse service, healthcare service, and Yellowbird, which is actually providing OSHA inspectors and other types of safety-related inspectors. They're all growing rapidly, 200 to 300% every year. So join these 4 entrepreneurs to talk about what's causing the rate of growth, what is the business challenges, what are the technology challenges, and what is their advice for all of you from the gig work domain. So do come back in 5 minutes for past, present, and future of gig work. I will see you back online in 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.